Welcome back to another episode of me reading through a series of lessons that I delivered originally back in 2010. It's the last series I did as the lead minister of the South Lake Church, and it is based on Luke chapter 15. And today's reading, I'm beginning the second message in that series. It was a 6-week series. And we're going to read a portion of that lesson today. We're looking at the greatest and most familiar story Jesus ever told. It's traditionally known as the Prodigal Son. But the truth is, it's a story about a prodigal father and two lost sons. Jesus tells this parable in response to the muttering of the religious leaders who were offended by the types of people who were attracted to him. It is a deep and comprehensive look at the heart of God. It reveals God's prodigal grace toward two sons who were both alienated from the Father in different ways. It's a microcosm of the whole Bible. Tim Keller notes that this story deals with an assault on community because of idolatry, which is only overcome by agony. In this story, we see that a family is torn apart not only by the shocking request of the younger son. He asked for his share of the estate while his father was still alive. In essence, he was wishing that his father was dead. But it is equally torn apart by the self-righteous attitude of the older son who refused to celebrate when the lost son, the younger son, came home. Now, they both had a form of idolatry that alienated them from their father. They both set their hearts on the things that the Father could provide instead of on the Father. Yet, it was the agony of the Father that made reconciliation possible for both of them. Even though he had every right to respond with outrage, he responded with love. He was willing to have his life torn apart. And he was willing to suffer humiliation for both sons in order to keep the door of reconciliation open in the relationship. He went out to both of them. Today, I want us to take a closer look at the younger son. I want us to reflect on why he left and what brought him back home. So look at these verses, Luke 15, verses 11 through 13. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had two sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living." Why does the younger son leave for the distant land? Better yet, why do we leave at times? Here are a few reasons people leave. One is the allure of the distant land. The myth that the grass is always greener on the other side. We become attracted to a different way of living. Another reason is the adventure of the unknown. Some leave because they are tired of the predictable, routine, boring life at home. So we set out on a new adventure to find real life. The third reason is the allegiance of our hearts to another God. Our hearts are disordered by another love. Make no mistake about it, no matter how you say it or how it expresses itself, we leave home and head for the distant land because we have removed God from his rightful place on the throne of our hearts and replaced him with the idol of self-centeredness. That's why the first two of the Ten Commandments are about putting God first. That's why Jesus said, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Those are some of the reasons that the younger son left. The allure of the distant land, the adventure of the unknown had replaced the allegiance he had in his heart for the Father. But it's interesting to note that the Father loved him enough to let him go. And it was this love that eventually brought him back home. What brought the younger son home? Better yet, what brings us home? Look at verses 14 through 17. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired men have food to spare, and here I am, starving to death." There were at least three things that were involved in the younger son coming home. And I'm just going to mention them as we close this episode, and we'll pick the story up and go a little bit deeper into them next time. But here they are. First, he saw himself. He saw himself. In the pull of despair, he realized how far he had fallen. And that's the first step, is having that self-awareness of just how far you have fallen. The second thing, he saw his father. He remembered that his father had left the door of reconciliation open. And because he had that view of his father, he knew he could go home. And notice the third thing. He knew he was dead without him. He knew he couldn't survive on his own. So, that's where we will stop for today. But my prayer is that wherever you are and whatever it is you are going through or have been through, that you would always see yourself, that you would recognize who your Father is, and you would know that you can always go home. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow or the next day. Take care.